Welcome in, everyone. Power Hour Flow and Charts. If you're new to the stream, if you got flow requests, questions about unusual whales, charting questions, market questions, whatever you want, feel free to drop them and ask. Otherwise, if you're returning, you know what we do. We just kind of look at flow, see what's coming in. Flow requests are great. Otherwise, yeah, feel free to drop your requests. We'll take a peek at them and kind of go from there. We will start out kind of looking at the market tide here. Just if anybody has any requests, feel free to drop them here, and I will look at them in a second. But let's just kind of look at the market tide first. Kind of flatlining now a little bit. Out of the money calls are dropping now. All put premiums and out of the money put premiums are ask side only. All calls are also now bid side, so this would read as a bearish market tide with your calls bid side and puts ask side. It's not super bearish, but you would consider this bearish with puts being ask side there. And your calls bid side, call volume's also dropping. Your volume's pretty flat between the both. So silver is your biggest contributor here to call premiums. Without that call premium would probably be dipped a little bit more. Intel is your largest leader on put premiums. Again, another one without probably Intel and Tesla here, you'd be seeing a little bid side there. We'll take a quick peek at Periscope as well too. I've only had this for a week, so I'm still kind of learning it, but I did have some levels marked out a little bit earlier here. So I'm just kind of trying to get the fundamentals down here before I can get everything where I can kind of start maybe possibly calling stuff out. But we had a lot of positive gamma here at 6,900. I had that marked here this morning on our 1 minute. Again, bounced right off that. And then you had your big negative gamma here at 6,930. I'm trying to zero in and get a better entry here. I had that. I marked the high. This wasn't earlier. I came back and marked that. But 6,900 obviously rejected in here if you just kind of doing kind of a crappy level here just to figure. But I had that a second. I went back and charted that out and missed that entry by $2. So we're getting zeroed in on this. Periscope is going to be really fun, really good education tool. Right now, not really seeing much here. We're sitting on top of really heavy negative gamma here. Not much going on. So let's, Benny, I know you had a IWM put that you wanted me to take a peek at. If you can drop it again here in the chat and I can take a peek at it for you, that would be awesome here. Get the contract look up here, or contract lookup going here while you drop that, clean some of this up here. So, okay, the IWM. I think these might be... I didn't see those ones hit. I was kind of looking at those. I just didn't like the big multi-leg on those. But let's look up the one that you're asking here. So the IWM 269 on the 27th here. 269p for 127. This one, so it is in the money. So look, oh, calls. Okay. Let me swap that over here one more time. IWM 269C for 127. This one, kind of look at, so all that flow is new here today. So you had 339 here and 359 there. I think, again, swinging weeklies over the weekend and these obviously expiring Tuesday, you'd have to double check open interest on this one. If I were to guess, they originally were bullish on this, and it looks like they might be cutting for a loss here. Again, we won't know until Monday, till that open interest updates, but I don't think a lot of, or a majority of this is going to carry over. Just I want to look at these candles here too. Yeah, this one's a little a little tougher because it's not, or it is all coming at the same time here. So it's about, okay, let's take a peek here. So you see how that IV is kind of decreasing here. I would probably read these almost as call sells. Again, hard to fully know. So that could make some sense here where they sold at 88 and they're buying back at 39. That would make a little more sense there to me. Let's see how this candle looks here. 1505, 1506, and it kind of drops a little bit. Yeah, hard to know too. It's coming in at the bid, but that could make. That's kind of how I'm reading it right now. Again, I'd want to see how that open interest changes on Monday there. Just kind of how I'm reading it though is they could have been short the calls at 88. They're buying them back at 39. That would make sense to me there. About a 60% or so return there. I'm gonna kind of lean with those being call sells there. Um, yeah, and just keep in mind too with this. Let me pop this over into the option profit calculator for you. For those to have, so what's Monday, the 26th there. So you are gonna need at least a 1% move to see a decent return. You'll get 19% on the contracts there if you get a 1% move. But it's your delta to theta on these. Your delta's 14 and your theta's 11. So you're gonna lose if we don't move at all. Like let's just say market ends right now. IWM doesn't move a penny until Monday. You're gonna lose 22 bucks on that contract. And if that contract is trading at 39, do the math. It's gonna be down 22.39. So it'll be about 15 bucks a contract, so you're going to lose about half that value on that contract, and that delta isn't very strong where it's going to give you a comeback. I like to kind of see that delta in that the high twos to the threes. You like to kind of have that 3 to 1 delta to theta ratio just so you can overcome those large drops, especially if you're holding over the weekend. But yeah, I would just be just with that higher theta on those. It's a little concerning because obviously IWM will be moving either Monday or Tuesday there. Um, Pipsy, just try to pop out and pop back in. I know there were an audio issue before, and I think it got fixed when somebody popped in, popped back out. Give that a try and see if that fixes. But the audio's good for everybody else. Should be good. Just come back here. Yeah, but I would say that these are I would say that these are probably call sells. Let's go. We can go look at IWM here on the on a chart here for you. Let me go over here and look. Oops, why did I pop that out? Okay. Let's look. Oh yeah, you are getting crushed today. So I mean it's a good thought there. Good thought there with the sell off. I like that thesis there. Let's just kind of draw here. So I'm not going to get the cleanest trend line, obviously, just because you got some further out extensions. But if you did kind of draw maybe from November of last year, which is kind of a shorter trend line, and you're still a ways to go till you see that trend. Obviously, your big trend there would be a further drop. I'd have more faith in that November little uptrend there, just kind of how it's riding that 20-day EMA there. You can see, zoom in here a little bit for you. Clean this up just a teeny bit too for you. I mean, you can see how it's, and man, that's such a tight trend. I don't like usually going in that deep on it, but we'll kind of have to. I'll kind of extend it a little bit. I like it. I'd like to see it hit that 20-day EMA there. I mean, you might see it hit that. I'd almost look for maybe a bounce at like that 260-ish level, give or take. Let's just kind of look at our long term here as well. So just kind of, we'll come up here and kind of draw a little trend in here. I mean, you can see it's hitting the top of that trend there, of that uptrend there. So you could see that rejection there. And how's your volume? I mean, yeah, your 30-day average for the volume, it makes sense to kind of see a little pullback there. Um, yeah, I would be really cautious on that. I mean, you never know over the weekend. That's why I'm not a huge fan of swinging over the weekend. Just you don't know what can happen. But you could get a gap up. I don't like it on the chart though, right there. I mean, that rejection looked good there. Could maybe see it come down here, that 262, and I mean, your 20-day riding that uptrend there is going to be your big spot to watch. All right, let's go back here and look. I did find, I posted this in the risky flow. I did like this as well. I may have grabbed a couple of these Intels. Just, I mean, you're down almost 18% on the day. You probably will see some dip buyers here eventually, and they are very close to the money too, which I like. The only thing I didn't like about that flow was that drop in that IV at the end. But I mean, your spot filled at the ask that entire time. We obviously just had earnings yesterday. I did grab a couple of these if anybody would like to know. Yeah, I just like that as kind of a little dip buy. I mean, 2% out of the money, 28 days. That's, I would say, being down 18%, you'll probably see dip buyers come in at some point. And we can go look at the chart too on it. The chart is obviously very ugly today. And it's kind of looking at that daily chart. I mean, you're at a good spot for potential bounce. We're kind of trading within this good little risk to reward spot here. I like that spot there, especially with some time on those contracts. It it looks nasty, obviously, on the daily view, but you zoom out and I mean, bounce, bounce, bounce. We've bounced out of this zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the last 8 times, and then pending this one. I I like that setup on Intel now that I'm actually really looking at it. And I mean, you just came out of a cup and handle there too. That's a nice looking piece of flow, or matching that chart with that flow. Let me pop back to that chart. Or that flow, sorry. Yeah, I mean, you're only 2% out of the money. That's it, and you're already kind of starting to pop a little bit there too. What is my average on these? I'll tell you what the average is I have on these. I'm actually up now about 1.5%. My average on those is 230, so I got in about 3 cents higher than that whale, but I do like that for a bounce. And just, I mean, I didn't look at the chart either at the time, and this is the first time obviously I'm looking at it, but looks good for a good risk to reward bounce, especially after a massive day. Definitely like that flow. Definitely like that flow. And just kind of looking at those net premiums too, just the last 14 days, there's really not a ton of bearish net premium there as well. I mean, you're sitting pretty much flat there. I mean, call premiums dipped hard, but that makes sense coming in after earnings there. Yeah, I like that spot for a bounce, especially with time on those contracts as well too. Um, yeah, I'm not the best with metals, Benny. Um, I would I was Keith did a live a little bit earlier today. He was selling his metals, so I would just with how they've ran, and I'm not super familiar with copper. I'm better with silver and gold, and again, I'm not a super big metals trader. I'll own shares on like GDX and SLV, but I'm not the best fundamental wise with them. Obviously, with the big run up lately, I probably wouldn't want to chase right now at these levels. I'd want to see a kind of pullback, but I know Keith is still overall bullish on metals. He's probably your metals expert where you want to talk to, but I'm give or take. I'm pretty much out of all my metals shares and everything, but sorry not to give you a good answer on that one, but I'm just not the super expert metals guy. Keith is very in tune with metals. But let's look at these cores calls that came in. We're getting hit with a lot of cores flow actually here. Only reason I didn't like these, your overlapping earnings, and a lot of that flow is going to be overlapping earnings right now. That's just that time of year where getting Q4 earnings coming in. You can look at this flow though; it's very interesting. 8403, and I mean I would read this flow as a buy easily. Again, it's just overlapping earnings where if you don't get that move, is this whale playing earnings, so on? I would probably make a really good guess they are not earnings flow. The way I kind of look at earnings flow is it ends that week that those contracts would expire that week. These are about 23 days longer, so I mean that whale's probably looking past earnings. Again, you just never know with earnings. I pound the table on this all the time. You have to, if you're trading and swinging contracts over earnings, you have to be prepared to lose that 100% amount just because earnings are so volatile. You never know what can happen. I mean, there were so many people, and actually we can go look at Core's earnings and just kind of look at their historical moves. So we don't have a full 16 quarters, but just kind of looking at it. Obviously, their last one you missed, but seeing small spikes here, you had a big. So you had two negative quarters out of 8 here. They are expecting an earnings per share jump as well too. Um, how have we performed? How did we perform here since November? So 2 week move, up 22% after 2 weeks. 1 day move. I mean the earnings here, it favors the upside. Again, just because it historically favors the upside doesn't mean it's going to always happen. Now, if we go and look at Intel here, again, it's hindsight. That's the only thing, but I did kind of post about it. You see a lot of people loving Intel, obviously. Obviously, they missed on earnings too, so that's kind of factors into it, and they lowered guidance for Q1. That's your big issue there, but just kind of historically looking at it, all your red X's, anything that's an X means it hit that implied move, it passed that implied move. So you look at your implied moves, I mean, they're all to the downside pretty much. That's historically favoring the downside. So kind of swinging calls into that might not historically be the best thing to do, and obviously that showed up today. Again, just because it historically says that, you just have to be cautious with earnings. They can say one thing, they can lower guidance a little bit, raise guidance. That stock could totally miss earnings, miss revenue, but the market might love the guidance. That's the one thing that usually moves the stock more than the actual earnings and revenue is the guidance. The guidance is always usually the biggest thing there. And since we're on earnings, why don't we go take a peek at next week? Because next week is packed here. Yeah, next week is going to be just the next 2 weeks are just packed with earnings, and I always tell people just be very, very cautious around earnings because these mega cap names, Microsoft, Tesla, Meta, Apple, Visa, oil companies, United Healthcare, and all these big names will impact their sectors. So you have to be very, very cautious in what you're swinging and what you're trading in that sector. Typically, I'm kind of more hands-off in this earnings period just with how volatile it is and how these names can swing the market. I know there's a lot of people out there that are, I need to trade every single day. That's not, that's shouldn't be your mentality, especially when you're in this earnings environment. You just have to approach with caution and be smart about it. But yeah, a lot of big names next week. Microsoft, Tesla, Meta, your big ones. Texas Instruments, Boeing, United Healthcare, Apple, Visa, all your oil companies, and then even the week after. Week after is big as well too. I mean, Palantir, AMD, Google, Amazon. It's going to be a very volatile 2 weeks. And that's the one issue about earnings too, is you cannot get out of that play until the next morning. So that's something to kind of always be cautious about. All right, let me get rid of some of this course here. About these, we'll look at these Rivians. Really, really long-term flow here. A lot of contracts, so we do have some open interest too. So let's take a peek. 60%, 68% out of the money. Let's see when that open interest came in. 1.9. So I would want to definitely double check open interest on this one. Couple outcomes that you could possibly see open interest wise. And I would probably lean that these are an ad. I mean, you have 11,000 today, 9,000 back on the 9th. Your volume is greater than open interest, but just because you see that 11,000 doesn't mean they're an ad automatically. Somebody could be buying more puts at the time. But a couple options that you can see with the open interest on Monday on here. Probably see it around maybe 2,500, so that would mean this whale got out here and somebody else bought extra contracts. Your open interest increases to about 20,000 or so, barring any extra flow coming in today. You're more than likely not going to see a no change on here just because that candle's bigger than that other one. Now, if it was 9,000, I say you could maybe see it stick around that 9,000 level. I'll make an educated guess and say that this will probably increase to 20,000 or so, give or take. Let's see what else we got. Multi-leg RCLs, we're not going to look at those. NBIS, the 130.94 put. So this one we had earlier, about 600 contracts, another 114, so about 700 there. Another 500 there. One that you definitely have to check open interest on. The 500, 593. Yeah, you definitely want to kind of check open interest. It's an ask side candle, but again, just because it's ask side doesn't always mean it's a buy. I would read this as a buy though, with that IV increasing, that spot coming in at the ask. Let's just kind of follow this up. IV drops a little bit. This is the part I don't like about this. So IV drops and then it increases here. Spot drops and then it increases again there. I would probably still consider these buys just with that spot filling 3 cents and a penny below that ask. It's a little wider bid ask too, and it's a wider bid ask that entire time. I would consider this candle here a buy. Let's look at that first candle. So this first candle coming in as a block trade. So you don't have any flow before it to see how that big whale essentially impacts that IV in that spot. And this spot here too, almost more of a mid-fill, obviously a little more on the ask side there, but makes that flow a little, doesn't give you a good clean context clue on something like that. And you just kind of see that IV bouncing around there too as well. That timing, I mean, just kind of what I like to tell people is just use your eyes. Like, don't try to overthink everything. If your eyes aren't liking it, just kind of move on. But just kind of looking at it here, I mean, common sense. Your flow's coming in at 906.18, and you're seeing multiple flow hits coming in here, and that timing, I mean, very similar timing. Very good educated guess. This is probably the same person. And I almost would want to say they would, and we 100% for sure don't know. Even if that timing is 100% the same, you don't fully know, but again, just kind of using your eyes, an educated guess, you just kind of it's a lot of screen time too. Just kind of looking at it, you pick it up over time. But just kind of looking at how that comes in here, I almost would say these are short puts. And let's see, we're 2% out of the money with 7 days. I mean, could make sense here. 445 here, you're seeing them drop down. Could be buying them back at 370. I don't know. Again, something you'd have to check that open interest on Monday, but that could make a little sense there where it's 445 and they're coming back at 370 and buying them. Because again, when we looked at this candle, again, timing's all the same. That IV is looking good there. I mean, it reads as a buy at first, but then that little end here gets a little foggy. So definitely one you'd have to check open interest on. Obviously kind of tanking into close a little bit here. All right, let's see what else we got. And if anybody has anything they want me to look at, feel free to drop it in the chat too. Let's look at these. How about these U21342 puts? So now this is what I would consider earnings flow, where it's 21 days and earnings is 19. These contracts expire the same week. I would consider this earnings flow versus the chorus flow that was 23 days later than that original flow. So let's look here. So out of the money 1%. So again, another one that's a block trade here. You don't get that surrounding flow to see how this whale is impacting that IV. Would that IV have increased? Would it have decreased? We don't know. And that fill, again, coming in at 310, it's leaning more on that ask side, but again, you just don't get that full context of reading that flow there. So, and again, I always tell people too, you're going to see more bad flow than good flow, especially during earnings season. That's for sure a fact there. Like, okay, so let's look at these Tesla puts, the 133.35s. These are, without even looking at it here, I'm going to probably assume that they're short puts. We do overlap earnings, but why do I think it's a short put? These are weeklies. You're 25% out of the money. I have a hard time seeing Tesla drop 25%. Even with a horrible earnings report, I don't see it dropping that much. I would probably let me go back to that. Sorry, I had a ding go off on my Robinhood here with my Intel. So sorry, give me 1 second here. I just have to manage this position slightly. Those Intel calls are already up 10%. So I just have to do a quick manage here, so sorry. Not trying to quit in the middle of the stream here. Alright, let me do this. Would like to take a little profit on this here, so just 1 second. See if I get filled. Yep, I got filled 10% on about 4 contracts. I'll take it. Okay, so back to the stream now. Sorry about that. I had to secure some profits there. Nothing wrong with that. I was like, why is my alert dinging like no other there? Okay, so back to the Teslas here. So again, 25% out of the money, very far out of the money. More than likely, you're not going to probably see Tesla drop that much. As long as these expire out of the money, this whale is happy. And just kind of, and it reads as a buy here, but again, just kind of being in the market for so long, what are the odds Tesla's going to drop 25% in the week? Probably not very likely. And I'm going to pop open that contract again. Let's go look at the delta, the Greeks on it. So again, your delta isn't even a cent. So you need a very, very large move. And I suppose I could have started up here and showed everybody. So Monday, again, 27th Monday, 26th Monday. So 26th Monday. If Tesla's down 5%, your contracts are still down 31% there. So just kind of looking at that and knowing the fundamentals of contracts and kind of how stocks move, you're probably going to be, I mean, these are, I would probably say 98% short. I would bet anything on that. And again, yeah, just kind of looking at your Greeks here, that delta, you don't even have a delta of 1. It's 0.01. So that contract's going to move 1 cent for every dollar Tesla moves. Obviously, Tesla moves nicely throughout the day, but that theta is 10 cents a day. If Tesla doesn't move a penny anymore from now until Monday morning, you're going to lose 20 bucks on that contract. And these contracts, again, are only valued at 20 bucks. So these are going to essentially open up at 0 on Monday. So that's just kind of looking at that flow in real time and understanding it. Like, you might see somebody post these and they're going to be like, let me go up, find it again. Where was that Tesla? They're going to be like, oh crap, somebody's got weekly big 14,000 size on the 130, 335 puts. Like, no, it's not even an earnings bet, because that's, by the time earnings hits on there, those contracts are worthless anyways. So we'll go back one more time, sorry. Tesla earnings are what day next week? Let me just look at this one more time. Tesla is next Wednesday. Okay. So we go and look at Wednesday, and Wednesday is the 28th. So 28th, you're going to need a 15% drop on that. I mean, even a 10% drop, you're pretty much crushed on those. Like, you need a massive drop to even secure post. So, and earnings are post market there. So you would be looking at the 29th. You're going to need a 20% move on something like that to secure profits. So that's just kind of knowing contracts and weeklies, especially, I mean, something that far out, that's easy to kind of sell premium on. Again, I wouldn't do it over earnings. You just never know what will happen, but I will say this whale is short puts there. All right, let's see. I need to pop open one more thing here. Let's go look at this. I want to see what those intels are doing. Oh yeah, you got a nice little pop on those quick. Nice quick pop on those. Really nice quick pop on those. So, okay, let's look at, again, another earnings one, PSX here. So like 5% out of the money, and you know earnings are coming. It's a little more reasonable, but again, earnings flow. So just kind of, and when you're looking at earnings flow too, all your rules essentially just have to get thrown out. All your little rules for flow, like IV could increase perfectly, spot price could increase perfectly, doesn't mean anything, especially during earnings. So just kind of looking at this, I mean, this looks good here. You get a little drop, comes back a little bit there. I would say it looks pretty good there, besides that little IV drop there, but it's only on that kind of one contract and the 20 there, and then you get that pop again. I'd say it looks good, but again, spot is a little more, not mid fill there, but not the best fill there. And again, earnings flow there. All right, let's go see what else we got. Anything new? How about these ANETs? So these are weeklies, and we do not overlap earnings. Seeing good call premium. I don't like that multi-leg percent there being 18%. I usually typically will stay below 10%. Let's just kind of see where that multi-leg is. Let's go see. So your IV drops here and your spot is filling at the ask. So let's just kind of follow this up. And again, you see that timing's not 100%, but again, use your eyes, common sense. Do we think this is the same person? 9 seconds apart, multiple hits, no other flow on this chain. I would make a good educated guess this is the same person. We gotta find that multi-leg in there. I would probably say these are short calls just with that IV and decreasing kind of that whole way up. But let's just see if I can find that multi-leg part in here, because it said 18% was multi-leg. So just the 1-2 contracts there, not. Here's your big multi-leg right here. So it looks like they're rolling the calls out though, so it's not anything, and you get bid side calls rolled out too. Yeah, really messy flow. Yeah, if you made me pick, I would probably say they're short calls. Hard to know. I mean, just when that flow is questionable like that, and move on to another piece, because there will always be another good piece of flow. Alright, let's see. How about the 320 USAS 13 calls? We don't overlap earnings. One that's already up significantly on the day. Still a lot of net call premium. 40% out of the money. It's kind of far. You do have some time on those contracts though. And these are already kind of moving a bit anyways. IV's kind of elevated as well too. The thing about chasing that high IV is if that stock starts to move sideways, that IV drops and you're going to start losing money on those contracts. So I mean that IV spikes when it comes in. 109.20, so it starts to drop a little bit here, and you can see I don't have, oh, I have it right here. So even with that price going up slightly, that IV's decreasing. So that's something that catches my eye there as well. Something to be cautious about. And again, something that's already up 40% on the day. I mean, these did make a move there, 55 to 65, but and my guess is they could be taking some profits there a little bit too. Like when we look at something here, so 40% out of the money, let's go back in here. So I mean, you don't need a massive move to get profits on here, but like you better hope people still continuously kind of pump this thing up just to kind of get some profits. Like you look at that delta to theta, so like this is a good delta to theta here. You're going to get 30 cents on that contract for every dollar move. You're only going to lose about a penny a day on that. So that's a good contract to have. Like this is a really nice contract. You just got to hope that something that's already kind of a slower mover there. I mean, you're up 9, almost 10% on the day, and it's a $9 stock. You need a, let's go here. So like you're up 85 cents on the day. You need that stock to move pretty well to get that nice delta on there, essentially. But I mean, you get a dollar move. I mean, that's a 10% gain almost. So I mean, I'm not a fan of the slow movers just because I'm not patient enough, but they do move pretty nicely though, especially if I mean, Twitter gets a little hint of the contract or so. All right, let's see. What else do we got? Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's just been a lot of multi-leg junk today. A lot of multi-leg junk. Some longer term, those kavas I threw in the earnings flow there. Again, I mean, you might get you might get a good move on there, but it's got to be considered earnings flow. That's the thing. I mean, they ran since they came in. DraftKings, I believe, these went into, again, earnings flow. You just don't know. You just don't know. American Airlines was earnings flow here chopping. They might be adding to that there. MDT, again, another earnings flow. And that flow might move. You just never know if they are strictly looking at earnings or what they're actually looking at. Microsoft long-term flow. This was an interesting one. Got a lot of flow coming in here. You got a good little run there. Microsoft beaten up very badly year to date. We'll come down here and take a peek. Your year to date on Microsoft is 3%, down 3.18, coming back a little bit. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything interesting? Yeah, an ETF has just been kind of mixed. I mean, a lot of calls and puts coming in. I just don't get a clear signal on there. So, I mean, you'll see some flow posted in like these IWMs. Again, massive multi-leg. Staying away from that. If I got to sit there and do surgery on something like that, I will pass and I will definitely hold out for something else. 'Cause you don't need to force trades. You take the trades that look good. You just got to be patient. Those Nvidia puts in. We're not gonna have a flow recap video this week. This was the only piece of decent actionable flow that hit the tape and hasn't really made a good move yet. 455. They hit 481 or 482 yesterday. Not a massive return. Still a lot of time on those, and they don't overlap earnings. Keep an eye on this one. I'll probably recap this in next week's recap. But yeah, short week this week. We just didn't really have anything interesting. Those Intels, man. I just need to check one more thing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, they made a good move there. Good move there. The only reason I didn't like these as an actual floor alert, again, just that IV decrease there at the end was what kind of threw it off. But again, good example of that. Just because that IV decreases doesn't mean that flow's not going to work out. And just kind of touching on it, I know we touched on it on the earlier live this week. Just when you're talking about IV, it's implied volatility. So when you see that IV increasing, so when you're looking at a call, we'll use a call as an example. If you see that IV increasing, so if this was backwards in that 53.60 to 53.69, so they're expecting more volatility around that stock. Again, you see that around earnings. So that's where the thought process comes in about it being potentially a buy, is that IV is increasing, that whale is assuming that stock is going to make a move. So like here, I mean, they ran, but that they yeah, no, exactly, Brad. That's, I mean, when I saw that flow right away, I mean, it could have been a flow alert there, and then just kind of how we were looking at the chart there too. I mean, you're at a good risk to reward spot easily there on that chart. And I mean, that's just something like if you've been trading for a long time, you just see something like that, and you're like, yeah, that flow's probably a buy. But yeah, so back to the IV thing, yes, like this, again, it's not make or break in a trade. It just, like for me, again, I'm posting flow for so many people. I want it to 100% match my rules. Like I'll throw this flow in that risky channel if somebody that's been trading for 10, 15 years sees it and they're like, I love that flow, I love the chart. Great, take it. But like for me to like be held responsible, I have to, make sure everything lines up perfectly. So that's kind of how I do it. Like a lot of that risky flow does look very good, like those Intel calls from earlier this week before earnings and those AMD calls. We were up 5% on the day already, but we continued to run. It's risky to chase that, but if you're an experienced trader, you're a good scalper, that's a really good channel there too. But so back to the IV thing. So like that IV, if you're seeing it increase, again, that would mean the thought process is that it means that there's volatility incoming. So that's where they think it's a buy. So now vice versa, where you see that IV decrease, and you'll typically see it at the bid side, they're selling those contracts because they're expecting volatility to go down. Those contracts are done making a move and so on. So it's just kind of the thought process behind the IV there. So let's come back over here and just see what else we got coming in. The 220 CPNG 22s, and I'm going to grab a drink here quick too. Okay. It's 28 days. We don't overlap earnings. Good spike in net call premium. Definitely opening flow, 3,200. We only have 1,300 open. Getting one of those big block trades where you don't get to see how that flow is impacted when it comes in. Probably a buy, but I mean, just when you don't have that other context to look at it, makes it pretty difficult. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Markets, oh, you're getting some put premium really starting to pick up here. So again, how we were saying at the beginning of the stream, it looks bearish, while your call premiums are continuing to slightly decline here, and your put premiums are moving up in tandem here, especially with your all and out of the money only. I like looking at the out of the money more just because it kind of shows more speculation there, and your out of the money are moving in tandem there with your puts. And yeah, I mean, you don't. It's Intel and Tesla kind of leading the way, but Intel I might kind of disregard just with how much it's been beaten up today. Obviously, there was a lot of put premium on it. Let's see, what do we got Periscope wise here? So this purple, so let me do one thing here, Periscope. So your purple bar, so we're seeing a purple bar here. You come in, your info, so your purple bar. So your gamma increased here. So that negative gamma increased right here. So, and your white dot shows what it was before, or your big white dot is what it is now, and then your 10 minutes ago. So you can see here, 10 minutes ago that was minus 6,315. Now it's at minus 9,085. So this right now, I'd like to see that price kind of below it. If that price was below it and you saw that big decrease, I'd be looking for maybe a quick short scalp there. But right now you're just kind of sitting on top of it. We're just kind of chopping along here. If you saw us come back up to that 69.30, that would probably be my next spot where I'd look for a potential quick short there. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, essentially what you want with this, you want to see price come up here, and then you want to see it like accelerate down through here. So this would be my support here at 6,900, and we'll just pop over here again. I just want to show for anybody that might have missed the beginning of the stream. So again, this is the first week I've used Periscope, so I'm just still kind of trying to get everything together. But your 6,900 level, you can see how we bounce there, and I'm trying to get really, really like specific on the entries here a little bit more. So that's 69 here. So that's 69.30. Can see a lot of negative gamma there. Can see how that was pretty much resistance there. You just hop over to the chart, and I just went there. I kind of work usually higher time frames and go down. So an hour there, kind of mark the highs there. 30 minutes kind of start to zoom in. And I actually missed my entry by about $2, $2.50 or so there. So very, very close there. So I mean, even if you would have got it at 69, I mean, you would have got a $30 bump there. So I mean, that's kind of why I like to go in there and chart that out too, just so you can get the best entry. You don't, I mean, the goal that when you're trading is to get as much of a return as you can. So kind of going in there and pinpointing exact entries is really, really good. Again, once I get this fully mastered here, it's gonna be a part of the group here. I might even throw it in the live stream throughout the day, and people can watch it if they want. I gotta figure out how to kind of get a good move, but you can see how we're kind of accelerating through that negative gamma here right now. So I'd continue to look for it to accelerate through this to the downside and maybe hit that 6,900 again. That'd be my next spot for a bounce. And I like to keep kind of that net premium on the side here as well too, just to kind of see what SPY is doing with that net premium. So like you can see put premiums kind of climbing here, call premiums are still up, but like earlier when we were at that 6,900 very early in the morning, like you can see net call premiums were rising, put premiums were down, potential good bounce there. So really cool tool. I'm again still learning it, but very very self-explanatory here. Like let me see, I can go back here earlier in the day. Oops. Let's go back here earlier. Oh, I suppose it's gonna. So like your gamma at this time. So let's go here. So a little cleaner view here, so you can see how it's just that 6,900 really sticking out there positive. You didn't really have a lot of negative gamma here until you got up to that 6,930. So when we got up to that 6,930, I'm gonna just pop this down a little bit here. So you can see, and that gamma updates obviously every 10 minutes, but you can see how our price was that 69.30 here, and I don't think it's going to show the price. Oh, we just updated. That's why I put. Okay, well, I'll have to show it on a different one, but you can see how we're coming up to that purple resistance here. So again, it's MOC right now too. It's market on close. I probably wouldn't want to scalp here in the last 10 minutes using this because a lot can change. But right now, I would be looking at this as resistance here, especially with all that gamma here flipping negative. That's a good sign for some more downward movement there. But yeah, I'm gonna get this thing mastered. This thing is very cool. I've been practicing my levels all week and stuff, so we're getting there. We're getting there, and hopefully I can pop that over into the group somehow, so at least I can throw out some gamma levels or so. So for everybody, what are we doing here? Yeah, I mean we're just kind of chopping between that too, but man, yeah, it's gonna be a fun tool. How's Intel? I'm just popping up a little bit. I'm just watching my contracts here on my phone a little bit too. Yeah, I'll definitely. Yeah, I'm swinging about half my position there. But yeah, kind of like you said too, Brad. I mean, you're down so much on the day. Shorts will have to cover at some point. It's just being in the game so long, you end up learning everything you need to, and it's fun. It's a fun game to trade and make money. 5 minutes left. Anybody have anything they want me to take a peek at here? Flow seems to have quieted down. I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, yeah, people will hop into this game and expect to make money right away. That's why, like, when I see people come in with like $30,000 portfolios and they think they're gonna trade options, I'm like, be very very careful because that 30,000 can be gone in the snap of a finger. I mean, it's it can go very 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 quick. So like when I started, I kind of started with a little, not a huge portfolio, but kind of a, let's say more small to medium size, just so because I knew I was gonna lose money. Like, and this is another thing that I tell people too is treat it as like a tuition, like you're going to college to learn. So like you're using your real ammo to learn, but don't use it all. Like that's the thing. Use a nice smaller kind of decent sized account. We're gonna look at these target puts here too, but just use a good decent account where you're not gonna be upset if you lose it all, because you will more than likely lose it all, especially if you're brand new and you don't kind of know what you're looking for. All right, let's look at these target puts. Yeah, everybody just thinks, because I see everybody posting cars and all this stuff online, and it's like, no, that's not how it works at all. Okay, so these target puts. So I like these. So again, IV increasing. Spot is filling at the ask. 3107. 107, spots filling at the ask. So IV increases. So you get a little, so another increase here, but then it drops here, and then it kind of gets a little funky at the end. Yeah, no, Lilu, that is a perfect thing too. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you're trading too is you don't know how to. Oh man, sorry. You don't know how to manage that risk, and most people will get emotional and let those contracts go down 60, 70%. And you're on a smaller account, like let's say you're on a $500 account, you can only get so many contracts, and it kind of forces you to think of a plan more like, okay, well, I only have this many contracts. I want to get this trade. Well, I'm going to cut these losers and put my money somewhere else where I can potentially see some gains. Versus like if you're in a $30,000 account and you're like, oh, I'll be down 2,000 here, I don't care, and then I'm down 3,000 on this one. Then you eventually look and your portfolio's down to like $1,000, and you're like, oh crap, that's not good. That's it's yeah, and right now, like I know there's people, again, like I was saying earlier in the stream, they always want to trade every single day, every single day. You don't need to trade every single day, like especially during earnings season. Like if before I did Discord or anything, I would not trade at all during earnings season. I'd step away for a week or two and just hang out, just watch the market. I mean, you don't have to trade, and you shouldn't put yourself in a position where you're worrying overnight, like, oh, is Tesla gonna tank the entire market? Is Tesla gonna tank the entire market, and are my calls gonna get toasted? Is Tesla gonna shoot up and bring the whole market up and toast my puts? Like, if you're worrying about that overnight, you probably shouldn't be trading at that time. And these targets here, I'd probably say no, just kind of with that IV decrease at the end. 7 days, how far were we out of the money? 2%. Could be buys. I just don't like it over the weekend. Yeah, and Lilu, I know you've been Lilu and Versatile, you two have been in here like a very long time. Like you know how much I pound the table and push that. I'm like, you need to be smart, especially during these times. And like next week too, we have FOMC. Next week is probably gonna be a majority hands-off week there. Like I will be very selective on what's posted, and if somebody's mad about that, great, be mad about it. YOLO your funds somewhere else. And but that's kind of why I did that riskier flow channel there too, because it's like, okay, well, if you want that risky flow, great, there you go, take it, but don't don't expect me to be in that risky flow there. Let's see. Yep, nope. It's that's the mindset. Like you need everybody wants to be in a trade. Everybody wants to be in a trade. I'm gonna let me just end the recording here quick.